Now I'm gonna try and do a screen share. Let me know if this looks okay. I'm using a different, got a new monitor. Make sure this works fine. It's not too big or too small or something crazy. Is that legible for everyone? Okay. In the description text, go ahead and use that for the additional languages if you speak any additional languages. Anthony, I never would have guessed you spoke Spanish, brother. Just would not have hit me at all.
You know, Hispanic people don't think I speak Spanish when they first see me.
Really?
Yeah, they usually talk in English, and then when I respond in Spanish, they're like, "Wait, hold on a minute."
What gives you the impression you don't speak Spanish?
I think it's because of some of my features. Because my dad, he's half black. Because my granddad is from Barbados, and I think when it's usually Mexicans. I think when they first see me, like I'm tall, I'm darker than them, and then they see like the curly hair, the big lips, the nose, and then they're like, "Oh, he's probably just like a black kid." And then I'm like, "No, I'm half."
That's cool. Yeah, I get kind of the same, not so much with the language, but being that I'm from the New Orleans area, right? And people don't expect that because I don't have any hint of a Southern accent, especially like a Creole accent. And I tell them I'm from New Orleans, and I also don't eat seafood, and they're like, "Nah, there's no way you're from New Orleans. There's no way." I'm like, it's true.
Did you tell us that you were from New Orleans? Because I wouldn't.
Yeah, you see. Yeah.
Honestly.
All right. Let's go ahead and jump into. We've got a short lecture. I'm just gonna talk through Figma here without going into the present mode. The lecture is going to be kind of short, and we've got some hands-on stuff we're going to do together. So it's going to be a little more of an interactive lecture tonight, which I think y'all are going to get a lot out of this. This will be one of the more fun and interesting things we've done. So we're talking about design systems, and as we get into that, let's just start with general question. Who can answer what they think a design system is, or who can best articulate how to define a design system?
I'm gonna give it a try. I'm actually gonna probably give like a bad example, but I'm working on a design system right now. But the design system will be like the place where we will have all the all the important information about the design, like the color styles, text styles, icons, just anything that has to do with I guess with like the UI of the um, of the design, I guess, of the application. That's where it will be.
Okay, that's not a bad answer. So that's what I would say is half of the answer, right? That's sort of the thing. What does it consist of? How about why would we use a design system? Anyone want to take a crack at that?
Is it because it's like a collection of rules? So it's like if we follow that design system, it just makes it easier for everybody else because we're all like on the same page.
100%. Yeah, that's about as simple and straight as an answer as you can give it, right? So it's a set of reusable components, right? That you and your design team, if you're working on a team, decide, and it's so that you have these sort of building blocks, so you can think of them as Legos, to put your application together, and it's a very cohesive. Everything is thematically the same, and you can stay on the same page with your design colleagues, and also with everyone else in your organization. So why would that be important?
For consistency across your design, especially if there's more than one person working on the project.
Good, exactly, right. So you don't have to sort of explain the design language when you're working from a design system, right? The design language has already sort of been vetted and agreed upon, and so all you're doing is, as you're solving these problems from a UX perspective, you're putting the same sort of thematic spin on it that everyone has already agreed works for the application. So this is how you eliminate a lot of the subjectivity that comes into later when you get into visual design, if you've already sorted this part out. So these are some of the advantages, right? You can iterate quickly, right? So if you want to iterate on a single layout, a single screen you don't have to, once you've gone to sort of maybe that middle or high fidelity range, you can keep pulling out new designs and new ideas and just moving things around, and you don't have to worry about, is this going to fit with the theme that we set, right? Are colors still going to match? It's still going to work? If you're working from a system, you've already sort of solved that problem, right? Design at scale, right? So as your application gets bigger, as your team gets bigger, your design system will be able to hold itself together. And then, as Dennis said, maintain that cohesion across your team, and then also communicate with designers and developers. If you haven't seen that already, as you're going through your project work, you will see that very soon, and how a design system will keep everyone's sanity in check. Okay, does that make sense, everyone? Fabulous. Okay, you may also hear these terms, right? A design library, design language, pattern libraries, all more or less mean the same thing. So don't get confused if you hear it called something different. So when to use a design system, right? So it's okay to iterate quickly on visuals, but once you've made a decision, convert it into a style or component, right? So when you're trying out ideas, and you're just kind of sketching on your canvas, on your digital canvas here, and you're not sure if something works, go ahead and turn it into a style or component. And we'll walk through that in a little bit, and save it, right? You can always go back and change it. Don't worry about your design system being something concrete that you can never go back and change and edit. Everything is malleable. Everything is always up for grabs if you want to make a change for it later. Okay. Gosh, that is a very short lecture. I'm glad, because I don't like talking that much. Everyone copy all that. I mean, I know it sounds pretty straightforward. We're going to go through a few exercises, and we're going to show how powerful this can be in your day-to-day work. But any questions on anything we just talked through? I just talked through forever. Nope. Good. All right. All right. So everybody jump into page 2 in this document for me. It says text and fill style. So we're gonna do this together. Let's see. So I'm gonna kind of start, and then I want you guys to I want you folks to follow along, do a quick fast follow after me. So we're going to start with a simple text style, and you've probably seen this already in your work, and you're working with Figma so far. And to create a text style is really simple. I'm just going to start with some basic text. I'm going to call this label, because we're going to be working with buttons in a moment. I'm going to leave the size at 17. I'll change the weight to medium. Zoom in a little bit here. So to create a text style, so over here on the inspector, these four little dots next to the word text this is for your styles. I'm going to tap that and click on plus. And here's where it's really important. I want you guys to follow this pattern. Put your name, type a backslash, and then type label, okay? And then click create style. So as you can see, this created a style under my name, which my name is now a grouping for this particular text style. So as simple as that, I'd like for you all to just go ahead and do the same thing. You don't have to keep the same text, the same font or color. You can do what you want. We're just practicing here. But the point is to make a label and make a text style under your name with the name label. And as y'all create these styles, I should start seeing, there we go, here on the local styles, everyone's name with the label start popping up. Now someone missed with the name. So if you need to change it, go ahead and click on the little off to the right by your style name, and you can edit the style and change the name. So whoever made this Helvet, it's like it's supposed to be Helvetica or something, go ahead and fix that. Great, looks like we got it. Tara, it looks like you've got a color style.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
That's all right. Right. And I don't know. Yeah, Tara, I'm just going to delete this color style for now. We're going to do color styles in a second. Dennis is jumping ahead. Thank you. So let's move on to color styles now that we've got that. So a really simple way to do that, you can use any kind of shape you want. I'm just going to use a rectangle just to demonstrate. And it works more or less the same way. First, I'm going to pick a color. Again, the color today is not so important. And I'm just going to click on the little four dots next to the fill for the style. I'm going to click on plus to add the style, and again, I'm going to call it Corey, and I'll just say whatever color it is. That looks like green. And there's my color style. So again, I'd like for everyone to do the same thing and make their own color style that is labeled under their name. seeing several colors pop up already. That's great. So I'm sure you all realize, that the whole purpose of this is that if you have some type of shape or part of your design that you want to apply a color style to, then you can just pop open these. If you click the little dots, open up the style panel, then you can grab any style that's already been made and switch those colors on the fly, right? Cool. So hopefully that's clear to everyone. That's not too confusing. Hopefully, right? All right. Do we get everyone? Shanti, am I seeing yours? Let me see yours. Okay, got it. Great. All right, and that's really the extent I wanted to go through for text and fill styles. We're going to use these a bit more in a later section, but for now, I just want to make sure that we're all clear on the naming convention and just how simple it is to create a text and a fill style. Okay, let's move on to page 3. Okay, and this page is called button. Buttons are kind of one of the major building blocks, if not the main building block for our applications. So I want to start here, and this is going to get a little meta kind of, but just kind of stick with me, and you'll see where I'm going and sort of why the paradigm that I walk you through is going to work like this. So to create a button style, the way that we want to recommend that we do this first is I'm going to create a simple shape, button shape. Right now, the size and affordance and all that is not important because we're just practicing here. So I'm going to create this simple rectangle shape, and I'm also going to create a text style in here. Make sure it's centered. Make sure it's not crazy big. Not that. Ooh, risque. Okay, so that's kind of large. Let's just make this a little bigger. All right, so I've got this this sort of text placeholder, and I've got this shape. I'm going to select them both. So I've got both items selected. In the top of the UI up here, you see these 3 buttons. This is the one I want here that says Create Component. You might want to memorize this shortcut if you want to be a master at it. All right, I'm going to click Create Component, and notice what happens in the layer panel over here. So I've got this component. Also notice this little icon with the 4 filled in diamonds. All right, so within this component are that label and that rectangle that I created. I'm going to rename this to let's do Corey button primitive. All right, and that's all I'm going to do for this for now. To expand on this, so that we have again, we talked about building blocks, the sort of Lego idea of Legos. I want to make a copy of this, and I could be wrong about this, but I think I understand that this works by doing copy and paste and not by alt dragging. I could be wrong, but when I tried alt dragging, it didn't work. So I'm going to be very specific here and do Command C and Command V to make a copy. All right, I'm going to drag this over. So what I have now is a copy of this primitive, and notice that it's still a component, but it's an instance of this other component. And notice the icon is a little different here over on the layer side. Okay, but for our purpose here, I'm actually going to create a new component from this. So same button over here at the top. I'm going to create a new component. I'm going to rename it to primary. All right, I'm going to do this one more time. Stick with me, it'll make sense. Again, I'm going to Command C, Command V to paste it. And again, now we've got another instance of this button here. I'm going to make one more component and rename this. Actually, I went a little too far. I'm going to delete this one for now. Before I make that secondary, I want to make a change to this button. So I'm drilled in. So I'm on the component. I want to select the actual rectangle, and I just want to change the color real quick. Okay. Now I'm going to make a copy of this one. Make it a new component and rename it secondary. And I'm going to make a change here too. Again, I'm going to be very careful because it's easy to try and click on the top level component and make a change and you don't see what's going on. Make sure you select the actual shape. Okay. And I'm actually going to delete the fill and add a stroke of this same color. All right. And that's all I'm going to do. So now we've got 3 button components. So why would we go through the trouble of making these copies and these instances of this first primary button? So let's say at some point in our application or in our design cycle, we find out that our buttons don't have enough affordance. Right? They're not tall enough to handle button taps. So if we go into our primitive component and we make that change, then that's going to make the change for all of our buttons, right? What if we find out that our primary, but wherever we have primary buttons, not that this would make a lot of sense, but just to illustrate the point that our primary buttons need to have a rounded corner, right? So let's add a corner radius to just this one, and that's going to affect primary and secondary because this one was an instance of this one, but notice it didn't change our primitive. So if we have other buttons that are used for other reasons, other in other parts of our application, then these won't get affected so long as they're not based off of the primary button. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. I hope everyone followed it because now I want every one of you to do the same thing that I just did. Okay. So start with a base rectangle, give it a label, a simple label. Create the primitive. Remember, it's going to be, the name of convention is your name /button/primitive. And remember, that needs to include the shape and the text. When you're done with that, you're going to make a copy. Remember, do copy and paste, not alt drag to make the copy. And then make the new instance a new component and rename that one to primary. And do it one more time and make the new instance a secondary. Please speak up if you forgot a step or you're not sure. I'll walk you through it. And when you've gotten to your secondary button, go ahead and try making changes to one of the two previous instances and see if your changes are propagating through to the later ones to make sure that your instance copying worked the way you expected. Everyone good with this exercise so far? Is anyone stuck? Anyone have a question?
I might be forgetting something, but the one thing I'm wondering about is I feel like in the past when I've had frames and I've named the frames, they usually have the name like floating above them on the artboard, but maybe I'm not remembering that right. So I've got my 3 buttons, and they're each frames, but they're not. The name of the frame isn't sort of floating above the whole thing.
Oh, okay. So
The element.
So you're talking about like this?
Hold on a second. Let me switch over to the.
Yeah, that's if you. Yeah, if you make this a. If you make your components by different artboards, then yeah. But we're just doing this all in the same artboard right now, so that's why you're not seeing.
Oh, I gotcha. There's an artboard behind all of it. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Thank you.
I have a quick question. I can't get my buttons to round, like their corners to round. I don't know if
Are these yours?
Yes.
Okay. So let's see. You want to make sure that when you're making that adjustment, make sure that you drill all the way down.
Oh, that's right. And select the rectangle. Okay, sorry. I totally forgot that part.
You got it.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, it looks like everyone pretty much got it. Any other questions on this before we move on? All right. I'm going to skip page 4 for a second. Just want to go over this last one real quick. So as I'm sure you saw, making a design system, setting up your styles, your colors, your button shapes can be a kind of a monumental task, especially if you're just starting out. There is almost never a reason to actually do that from scratch, right? there are a lot of resources out there. For example, this sort of Figma resource, Figma Finder website. And there are just tons and tons of free design systems and UI kits for you to just use, right? Even if they don't match what you're looking for exactly, you can still grab it. And now that you know how to edit and make your own components and edit styles and make these things yourself, you can go in and customize one that's close to what you're looking for, or just one that you think that you can modify to the point that it'll suit your purposes, right? So, you know, I would hate to think that anyone feels like they need to go in and create this level of detail for every project that they're on, right? There is just almost never a reason to do that. You know, just find a system that you like, find a UI kit or something that you like, and make those modifications so that it matches what you want it to do, and then call it your own. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing at all. Okay. Any questions about that? All right. Let's go to page. Oh, yes.
Yeah, is this design system in Figma website?
This one I don't know. I do believe we're gonna. There's a design system that we have for you ready to use. Louis, what's that called? Do we still have that?
Sorry, I was muted. There are plenty of websites out there that have UI kits for Sketch, Figma, XD. I can drop you guys a few links, but we do have a Ant design system. I believe Corey is what you're thinking of.
Yeah, I don't see
And
it.
I can. It's right there, Ant design system. Yep.
On that same note, Louis, do you mind dropping some iOS design systems? I feel like that's the one I've been having the most trouble trying to find today. All of them.
Yeah, any of those free resource websites, you could possibly download like a free iOS 12 GUI kit, but anything like up to date, you're probably gonna have to pay money for it. So
Wait, the Apple one is free.
there it is, but there are. Sorry, what?
Human interface. I think that one is free.
Yeah, that is free, but there are other UI kits that have pretty much every component made up for iOS.
Yeah,
I'll drop it.
There's websites like Envato. It's like $20 a month, and you get access to like thousands of UI kits.
If you guys go to like Figma Freebies, that's another one. Freebies UI, Figma Crush is another one.
Yeah, so there are some free resources. Yeah, like Chad said, like there are some paid ones, and by paid, they're generally not super expensive, right? If you just want one, I mean, I'm sure there are subscription sites out there, but like if you just want one really robust UI kit, I mean, you might pay anywhere from $12 to maybe, I don't know, $60 or something like that, depending on what your budget and what you think expensive is. But there's always something out there for you to just use rather than rack your brain and try and do all of this, you know, over the course of a week or so to make this yourself. Any other questions on that? All right, let's jump into page 4. We're gonna have a little fun. So we are going to collectively create some different and interesting little robot heads, right? And we're going to do this using sort of the design, the component paradigms that we just kind of worked on. So we're going to do this together. So I'd like for everyone to do first is in this first little color artboard, make a quick swatch, make a quick rectangle. And the same thing we did earlier, give it a color style, put whatever color you want, whatever color you like, and just give it your name, and make sure you use this name convention, okay? Make sure you type robot, then your name, and then the name of the color, okay? And that design system blew up my assets. So I'm gonna turn that off. All right. When you've got your color style, jump on down to the head frame. And I want you to make a copy of this frame to work in. Please do that first before you do anything. And within that frame, I want you to draw any head shape that you want. Okay, it doesn't matter what it looks like. I want you to be as creative or as goofy as you want. We just want the shape of the head. We don't want you to design anything else. You just want something that you think could be the head of a robot. It really doesn't matter what it is. But stay within the constraints of the frame, of the little the square shape here. And when you have a head shape that you're happy with, I want you to take that frame that you work in, and I want you to create a component. Okay. And I want you to name the component similar to the textile. So put robot, and then your name, and then head. And now I'm blanking on if I'm supposed to do the frame or just a shape. Louis, do you remember? We need to include the sort of the outer frame, or is it just the inner shape?
Yeah, outer frame as well.
Okay.
That's technically like the background.
Gotcha.
I guess.
All right, we've got some cool looking heads going. When you're done with that, move on to the eye, and you only need to do one because we can always duplicate it. And same thing, use your imagination. Again, make a copy of this 120 by 120 rectangle. Work within that rectangle as your constraint and make a shape of an eye. Again, it really doesn't matter what it looks like. Go absolutely wild and crazy with your ideas there. Please make a copy of that frame and don't move it.
I have a question. I accidentally didn't include the rectangle within my head component. How do I undo a component in order to add the rectangle back like in with it?
Where's your shape at, Regina?
Right
This
here.
one? This one?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. All right, so this is your component. You didn't. Okay, so all you need to do. Find it.
Yeah, I was fixing to name it, and then you said you're supposed to add the rectangle with it, and so I was like, oh crud, I need to go back, but I couldn't Command Z, so I didn't know how to.
Yeah. Same. It's actually a question. Because I thought it was. Louis, I'm lost again. I thought it was you break it here on the right, but I'm not seeing that.
What was the question?
So here's Regina's shape.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't have the background, so she wants to basically kill this component.
So yeah, let's go ahead and detach that component.
Detach, that's right. So it's command click on that.
Mm-hmm.
And no, it's not. Where is it?
Click on trying to see the component at the bottom left over there. Component 2.
Oh, in the layer.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the layer, yeah. And then you should be able to do a drop down on it. Yeah. So where exactly are you trying to detach?
I'm trying, well, because I didn't know I was supposed to include the rectangle within the component, and so I was trying to add the rectangle into it, but I didn't know how to add it, so I was trying to detach the whole component and then redo it all as one.
Okay, let me just go into the file.
Yeah, sort of Figma changes things like every other week.
Where is the original file? I'm so confused right now. What happened? It's weird. You should be able to, that's the master component, so you should be able to break it. That's why I'm not really sure why that's not happening. Like I was able to detach this over here.
Okay, thank you so much.
Why did that?
Okay, it looks like everyone else has jumped on creating mouths. If you made an eye we do need you to make sure that that is a component. The same thing we did with the head, right? And that'll be the same for the mouth. And again, use the same naming convention with robot, your name, and then I, and then robot, your name, then mouth for the name of the components when you create them.
Hey Corey, is that from the original file? Or did he pull this from another Figma file?
This was blank, really. There was nothing in here.
That's why. Okay, so you can only delete a master component if it's from the correct file. So that's why it wasn't working. Did he pull that from like another lesson?
No, Elizabeth made this for me.
Okay.
So one of them.
Okay.
Which brings me to the next question of switching out the components. Why is, I swear that was done differently, and now I don't see how it would, where you change the components out. If you just wanted to swap the components, I mean.
Yeah, I just don't think that component was made in this file. That's what I'm trying to say. So.
Oh, but the ones that are here.
Right?
Yeah. All right, and if you're done drawing, go ahead and try and sort of use the components that the other folks have made and build a new robot using the eyes and mouths and heads that other folks have made, and we'll see how we can start swapping those out using the component feature. Again, please make copies of everyone's stuff so everyone can still use it.
There we go.
So Louis, you pulled that from the other file?
Yeah, I totally forgot we're using a team library.
I mean, is that why I'm not seeing?
Well, the only way you remove the component is by the assets tab right there that you have open.
And what about just swapping them from one that's already on one of these other artboards here?
Yeah, they just pull it from the asset file.
Okay. I thought there was a shortcut. Wasn't there something in the inspector panel to do that?
You could just duplicate it if since they have all the master components right in front of them, they can just duplicate it that way instead of pulling it from the asset tab.
Okay.
I just now realized we're only supposed to have the frame around the head and not the eyes and the mouth. So I'm deleting the frames that are around my eyes and mouth so that they can actually be used as components of a face without there being a giant, whoops, and not deleting the whole thing. So that there's not a giant rectangle.
Yeah, so I'm going to use Anthony's head over here. Dropped it. Boom. Let's see. I'll use Elizabeth's eyes that she made. Just going to duplicate this one. I'll use Steven's mouth that he made. There we go.
Hilarious.
Oh, this is a cool head. Dennis made this one.
Right, and so you see the one that Louis built here, right? And so since we have these new instances over here, this is what I was looking for. Over here in the inspector panel, you can swap these out, assuming that we've got these all labeled correctly. I'm gonna find Miles, and right now he's using Stevens. So if I switch to Dennis's.
So I think the main problem that people are running into, they're actually adding the eyes and mouths to the head component.
Yeah.
And so when you pull that head component out, it already has everything attached to it.
All right. This looks like an avatar of a Amazon one. Nice job, Regina. All right.
Thank you.
But we are out of time. The point we wanted to illustrate is as you start making these instances, you can go in and quickly swap them out using the inspector panel with one of the other instances, the other components that one of your classmates made, and just play kind of Mr. Potato Head with your robots here. So hopefully this lecture and lesson was fun and you got a little bit out of it. Please feel free to stay in this file and keep practicing and playing with this and making some fun robot heads and post those in Slack. As mentioned, if you weren't on at the very beginning as we started this is our last lecture for Labs. Coming up following, we're going to be having design critiques and office hours. So until then, you folks do know how to reach me and Louis if you need anything in the meantime. When we come time for office hours, I'll have my Calendly link that you can book time to use that for. Any questions on anything we went over tonight? Anything not make sense? Anything difficult? Anything you just want to talk about?
Hey Corey, are you a Mac user or a PC user?
For most of the time, I use Macs. I do have a PC that I do a few other small things on that's not connected right now, but I do use them both.
For sure. I'm trying to find a solution because like Apple does give you their free design system, but it's for Sketch primarily, and that's it's a DMG file, so it only opens on Mac. I'm trying to convert it to an ISO file, which is like you can open it on a PC and like move it into Figma, but every time I find a converter, the converter just corrupts the file. So I'm trying to figure out a solution.
Brian, you should be able to just import the sketch file into Figma without having to do that.
I mean, if you want to do a private call later, I've tried. I keep just trying to click and drag it into Figma, and it keeps saying that file is unable to open.
Yeah, you actually have to import it. You can't drag it into Figma.
Word.
Yeah, I could show you guys after.
For sure.
Okay.
I was just going to ask if you guys want to drop links to some of the resources you were talking about for UI, where to go shopping for UI kits and stuff like that in the Slack. I would appreciate it. If not, I can go hunting for my own.
Did that. It's in there.
Oh, that's what I get for paying attention. Sorry, Louis. Thank you.
No worries.
All right. Anything else? Any other questions? It was a good class, good lecture. All right, my friends. Y'all take it easy and take care. We will see y'all again very soon. Until then, have a good night. See y'all again.
Night.